Right in the middle of peace negotiations, news broke that US warships have begun clearing the waterway for global trade. So how dangerous is passage through the channel? That's what I want to discuss with Farzin Nadimi from the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. He specialises in security and defence affairs of Iran and the Persian Gulf. Before I get to the questions, first of all, let's listen in to the US president.
They've dropped a couple of water mines, you call them water mines, in the boat. We've defeated all of their water boats, too. Their Navy has gone 158 ships. They have 28 water droppers, mine droppers, they call them. All of them are sunk. They probably have a couple of mines in the water. We have mine sweepers out there. We're sweeping the strait.
So bring us up to speed, Farzin. The president's alluding to sweeping the strait. Is he sending warships through? Because we're getting different reports from the region right now. Iran says there aren't any military ships going through the Strait of Hormuz. Are there?
Thank you, Ben, for having me. Yes, there are reports that two U.S. Navy's destroyers have actually traveled through the Strait of Hormuz into the Persian Gulf for a brief period of time, and then they traveled back out into the Gulf of Oman. It looks like that they are testing the waters, not only for mines, but also for any other signs of threats, Iranian threats, and also they are checking for a new pathway further south in the Strait of Hormuz, very close to the Omani shore, that could be used as an alternative to the established maritime corridor. Well, these ships by themselves have no mine detection or mine clearing capabilities. We have to be very very clear about this. There are political statements. There are operational realities. To check for mines and to detect and neutralize mines, you have to have the specialized equipment. The United States Navy used to have 4 Avenger-class minesweepers in Bahrain that were decommissioned, retired and decommissioned right before the start of these wars, and they were replaced by 3 Independence-class littoral combat ship vessels that they were surprisingly also left the region right before this conflict started. So the U.S. Navy doesn't have real mine sweeping capabilities in the region, but I'm sure that they can bring some to the area if there is a permissive environment for this operation to take place. And I insist that there needs to be permissive environment for demining operations to start, and it will take weeks, if not months, to clear a minefield in waterways. But I'm not very sure actually that right now in the Strait of Hormuz there are any mines.
OK, we'll get to that in a moment. First of all, Tehran says there will be severe consequences if military ships are passing through, no matter their demining capabilities or not. Is that the reason why Iran is saying there aren't any ships going through at the moment, because it doesn't want to follow through on that threat and scupper this peace deal, or where are we at?
Well, it looks like that Iran is very clear, wants to make it clear that the Strait of Hormuz is, from now on, is under the IRGC's control, and they want to make a precedent. But it doesn't look like that they are in a position right now, especially now that negotiations are taking place in Pakistan, to actually deliver on those threats or deliver on those threats of destroying those ships. I don't think that that's even under agenda. But threats are there. These waterways are not safe. But I don't think right now the IRGC is in a position to threaten any ship in the region.
OK, Farzin, and you say you don't know if there are mines being used in this waterway. The president seems to think it's a couple of mines. What would that mean? 1 or 2, or are we talking hundreds or thousands?
Oh no, there are very old estimates of Iran's arsenal of sea mines. Some numbers are circulated. 5,000, I've heard, but we don't know actually how many. At least in the open, that how many sea mines Iran has. There are a variety of types. Drifting mines, moored mines, and Iran has quite a number of those mines. And there are also influence mines that the various types of them that react to pressure, magnetic or acoustic signatures of the targets. And there are bottom mines. Bottom mines are usually influence mines and are activated by either of those methods that I mentioned. Iran is known to have moored mines already in place at the bottom of the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is fairly deep, not very deep, but fairly deep in the context of the Persian Gulf region. But there are high currents, and they are not good for drifting mines. Therefore, I don't know if President Trump has used intelligence reports of the existence of a number of mines. But if there are any, there might be bottom mines that have already been laid there, and they might be some even remote controlled mines, and some of those mines might be in very unorthodox shapes, like in the shape of rocks or other natural objects are down there, but which make them very difficult to detect by LiDAR, but there might be other means of detecting them.
And I bet the drifting mines are hard ones to find, which brings me to this New York Times article I stumbled across. Iran can't find all the mines it planted, according to the newspaper. Where does that leave us?
Well, if that report is true, it shows that Iranians were not very much in control of what they were doing, because laying drifting mines in the Strait of Hormuz, as I said, very high currents, is not a good operational job. And to be honest, I'm not sure if they have. If they had laid drifting mines in the region, but there might be some moored mines that they didn't catalog, and they didn't know exactly or write. They didn't write down the coordinates of where they laid those moored mines. That's a possibility, but I'm not sure if that would be the case. If Iranians have actually laid any mines, they know where they are.
Okay. And the other problem I was reading about was that Iran doesn't have the capabilities to quickly demine the strait, which I'm told was causing problems in getting this deal in the first place, because it can't actually make the strait safe if that's the case. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, Iran used to have the most capable minesweeping operations capabilities in the region. Iranian Navy used to have 6 RH-53D Sikorsky helicopters that were equipped. They were American-made, American-equipped, very capable against sweeping mines, and they used them to sweep mines back in the 80s. But right now, I think very few of them, if any of them, have survived the U.S.-Israeli bombings of Iranian naval bases. I doubt any have survived. But if any have survived, there shouldn't be operational, and I don't think Iran right now does have any minesweeping capabilities after the destruction of its navy.
And why doesn't the U.S. have extensive capabilities in this type of field?
Well, that's a very good question. The U.S. Navy used to have 4 Avenger-class minesweeping ships that were very successful during the first Gulf War. They demined the Kuwaiti coastlines, northern Persian Gulf, and they actually destroyed about 1,000 Iraqi mines. back in the early 1990s. They were retired recently, and they were replaced with three Independence-class littoral combat ship ships that have MCM or mine clearing equipment packages. They have very modern capabilities. They have unmanned drones, undersurface vehicles, and they have helicopters, MH-60S helicopters that have lidars. They can detect mooring and moored mines and also bottom mines with the combination of these modular capabilities, but they are not in the region either, and they were actually removed from the Persian Gulf right before the start of these hostilities, and the last time they were seen, they were in Southeast Asia.
Okay, why?
We have no I have no clue, but U.S. Marines have very capable, U.S. Navy has very capable helicopters, the latest generation of those Super Stallion helicopters. They call them King Stallion, and they have very capable minesweeping equipment. And if they are called upon, I believe they can be deployed to the regions fairly quickly.
Do you think Europe's going to be called upon? I believe it's in a better position to determine
Yes.
or demine waterways.
Yeah, I think under permissive conditions, under permissive conditions, I think Europe will be more than ready to help with demining if there are any mines. I think they will be ready to do that. European countries are forerunners in maritime demining technologies, and NATO has two ready groups that are very capable, and I believe they will be ready to deploy to the region.
But Farzin,
under permissive conditions.
They have the capabilities, but would they really want to help out? I mean, Europe didn't want to help secure Hormuz in the first place, and this sounds like a pretty tricky operation.
Well, we have to remember the Red Sea operations, Bab el-Mandeb during the Houthi crisis. There are operational speedies, the European operational speedies, very successful but very defensive also. And I think any other operation that Europeans would be willing to undertake or to participate in the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, I think they would want it to be very defensive with no offensive component. But the realities are probably different. I think if the United States and its allies want to reassert control over the Strait of Hormuz, they might need to go into offensive, secure islands, secure some parts of the coastline overlooking the Strait of Hormuz, and engage in any hostile RRGC units that want to challenge freedom of navigation. I think it would be a risky operation. It probably a non-permissive operation, and something that Europeans are hesitant to take part in.
So Farzin, where do you see this going with the Strait of Hormuz, it being reopened, it being safe to transit through?
Well, Iran seems to be very determined to set out new conditions on navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. They might be successful if the United States shies away from challenging this new claim. It all depends, I believe, on the result of the negotiations in Pakistan, and if there's not going to be a deal as set out by President Trump, I think we will very soon go back to the military operations scenarios, and I think the U.S. Marines and airborne units and NAVCENT in the region they have plans for years to open the Strait of Hormuz, and they have practice for it. They have made preparation for it. I think they are going to open the Strait of Hormuz but whether that will be they will be able to keep it open. That's another question. I think it will depend on a lot of variables. I think they will have to go back into high intensity combat operations, a lot of bombing missions in the north, over the coastlines, coastal defenses, those islands, and probably they will need to land on those islands, and especially Kershma Island and Lorak, where IRGC Navy has a lot of defensive capabilities. So I think if no deal is made, we will go back to the fight.
Okay, it sounds like it would be. I mean, it would be a huge relief for the rest of the world if the Strait of Hormuz were to be reopened, but all of this sounds so far away right now from what you're saying. Farzin Nadimi, thank you very much for your time. It's been really interesting talking to you from the Washington Institute for Near East Policy.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you for watching. I'm Ben Fajzullin. I'll see you again soon.